Batman, 1966 to 1968, a legendary series that captivated audiences with its unique style, thrilling action, and unforgettable characters. It became a cherished part of pop culture, embedding itself in the hearts of fans worldwide. But behind the bright lights and iconic POW and BAM fight scenes lay tragic real-life stories that few could have foreseen. The actors who brought Gotham's heroes and villains to life faced their own battles, some lost to sudden, shocking accidents, others to long, quiet struggles with illness. These losses left a void that can never be filled, but their legacy endures, immortalized through their contributions to television history. Join us as we uncover the heartbreaking yet inspiring stories of those who gave their all to bring Gotham to life. This emotional journey serves as both a tribute and a reminder of the fleeting nature of life and the lasting impact of those who shaped the world of Batman. Adam West was born William West Anderson on September 19, 1928, in Walla Walla, Washington. With his deep, authoritative voice and rugged good looks, he became the definitive Batman for an entire generation, bringing both humor and campy heroism to the role in Batman, 1966 to 1968. Yet, despite the show's massive success, it also became a curse. West found himself hopelessly typecast. Hollywood refused to see him as anything but the Caped Crusader. Once the series ended, job offers dwindled, and his career spiraled into a frustrating limbo. He turned to guest roles in television and low-budget films, but the fame he once had seemed distant, almost mocking. His personal life mirrored his professional struggles. He married 3 times, first to Billy Lou Yeager, then to Ngatokromatawa Na Frisbee Dawson, and finally to Marcel Taganlair, with whom he remained until his death. He had 6 children, but the demands of Hollywood often pulled him away from a stable family life. Alcohol became a solace in his darkest years, as he battled loneliness and professional rejection. It wasn't until the late 1980s and 90s that he experienced a resurgence, as nostalgia for the old Batman series grew. He embraced his legacy, lending his voice to animated versions of the character, most notably as Mayor West in Family Guy. However, fate had the final say. In early 2017, he was diagnosed with leukemia. Despite a career filled with ups and downs, he faced his final days with grace, passing away on June 9, 2017, at the age of 88, surrounded by his family. Though he spent years trying to escape Batman's shadow, in the end, he found peace in his role as the legendary Dark Knight. Cesar Romero was born on February 15, 1907, in New York City, the son of Cuban exiles. Handsome, suave, and always immaculately dressed, he first made his mark as a Latin lover in 1930s Hollywood, starring in films like The Devil is a Woman, 1935, with Marlene Dietrich. But he refused to be boxed in. His comedic talent and imposing presence allowed him to transition into roles as gangsters, aristocrats, and adventurers. Yet, it was his turn as the Joker in Batman, 1966 to 1968, that made him immortal. With his maniacal laugh, white face paint slathered over his mustache, and an energy that made every scene electric, he became the definitive clown prince of crime for generations. Romero never married, which fueled rumors about his private life for decades. While he was linked to several women, including Joan Crawford, whispers persisted that he was more devoted to his male companions. However, in classic Hollywood fashion, he never confirmed nor denied anything, choosing to keep his personal affairs a mystery. Unlike many of his Batman co-stars, Romero's career flourished long after the series ended. He worked steadily in film and television into his late 80s, appearing in The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, 1969, and Ocean's 11, 1960, alongside Frank Sinatra. But time catches up with even the most flamboyant of villains. In his later years, health problems slowed him down. He developed severe bronchitis and pneumonia, which ultimately led to his death on January 1, 1994, at the age of 86. The Joker's cackle may have faded, but Romero's legacy, an actor who never let himself be defined by one role, endures. Alan Napier was born Alan William Napier Clavering on January 7, 1903, in Kings Norton, Worcestershire, England. He was the epitome of British sophistication, his deep voice and aristocratic demeanor making him a perfect fit for Alfred Pennyworth, Bruce Wayne's faithful butler and confidant. A classically trained actor, Napier's career spanned decades before Batman, with over 150 films and television appearances to his name. He shared the screen with Hollywood greats, starring in films such as Cat People, 1942, and Julius Caesar, 1953. Despite his impressive resume, it was Batman that cemented his place in pop culture. Off-screen, Napier led a life of quiet dedication to his craft. He married twice, first to Drusilla MacDonald, with whom he had one child, Jennifer, and later to Aileen Dickens Hawksley, a descendant of Charles Dickens. His relationships were stable, yet his life was not without hardship. As he aged, his health declined, and he suffered a series of debilitating strokes. His final years were marked by frailty and illness, with pneumonia ultimately claiming his life on August 8, 1988, at the age of 85. Though he may have been overshadowed by the caped hero he served, Napier's portrayal of Alfred remains iconic, a reminder of the steadfast loyalty and wisdom that defined Gotham's most trusted guardian. Burgess Meredith was born on November 16, 1907, in Cleveland, Ohio. His career spanned decades, making him one of Hollywood's most versatile character actors. But to Batman, 1966 to 1968, fans, he would always be the Penguin. With his signature squawk, cigarette holder, and top hat, Meredith turned the villain into a gleefully wicked icon. But behind the scenes, his life was anything but playful. Raised in a strict, emotionally distant household, he carried those wounds into adulthood, struggling with depression and self-doubt. His romantic life was turbulent, to say the least. He married 4 times, each relationship ending in heartbreak. His third wife, actress Paulette Goddard, was perhaps the most famous of his partners, but even their glamorous union couldn't withstand the strain of Hollywood. Though Batman made him a household name, Meredith's true critical acclaim came later, portraying Mickey Goldmill, the gruff, no-nonsense trainer in Rocky, 1976, a role that earned him an Academy Award nomination. He was also a favorite in The Twilight Zone, delivering unforgettable performances in episodes like Time Enough at Last. But age and illness took their toll. He suffered from cyclothymia, a mild form of bipolar disorder, and in his later years, Alzheimer's disease slowly stole his memories. In 1997, at the age of 89, he died from complications related to melanoma and Alzheimer's, his final days spent in quiet solitude. The Penguin's laugh may have echoed across Gotham, but Meredith's own life was haunted by battles few ever saw. Neil Hamilton was born on September 9, 1899, in Lynn, Massachusetts. A suave and distinguished leading man of the silent and early sound film eras, he found fame long before Gotham needed a commissioner. Hamilton's career began in the 1920s, when he starred in films like Beau Geste, 1926, and The Mysterious Dr. Fu Manchu, 1929. He even worked alongside Greta Garbo in Romance, 1930. But Hollywood is fickle, and as the decades passed, his star faded. By the 1950s, work was scarce. Once a heartthrob, he found himself nearly destitute, reportedly contemplating suicide before a sudden career revival in television. Batman, 1966 to 1968, threw him a lifeline, casting him as the ever-loyal Commissioner Gordon, a role that gave him stability in his later years. Though he played the symbol of law and order in Gotham, his own life was marred by financial struggles and personal disappointments. He married Elsa Whitmer in 1922, and despite remaining together for over 50 years, their relationship was reportedly fraught with strain, likely worsened by his declining career. They had one child, but the demands of show business often kept him away from a steady home life. When Batman ended, so did his steady income, and he once again slipped into obscurity. In his final years, he lived quietly, far from the Hollywood spotlight. On September 24, 1984, just weeks after his 85th birthday, he died of complications from asthma. A forgotten leading man of a bygone era, Hamilton's legacy is now most fondly remembered through his time as Gotham's steadfast commissioner. Frank Gorshin was born on April 5, 1933, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a man whose energy seemed limitless. As the Riddler in Batman, 1966 to 1967, he turned a minor villain into one of the show's most electrifying presences. His high energy, manic laughter, and frenetic movements made him the perfect foil to Adam West's stoic Batman. But off-camera, Gorshin was a man haunted by the pressure to succeed. An incredibly talented impressionist, he could mimic the voices of stars like Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster with eerie precision. But his greatest impression was the one he left on Hollywood. His career saw highs and lows. He starred in films like Where the Boys Are, 1960, and 12 Monkeys, 1995, yet he never quite achieved the leading man status he craved. His personal life was no less complicated. He married Christina Randazzo in 1957, and while they remained together until his death, their relationship was often strained by his workaholic tendencies and long absences. He battled gambling problems, sometimes losing thousands in a single night, a habit that left him constantly scrambling for his next gig. In his later years, his health deteriorated rapidly. He was a lifelong smoker, and the damage caught up with him. Lung cancer, emphysema, and pneumonia ravaged his body. Yet, ever the performer, he worked until the very end. Just days before his death, he was still taking the stage. On May 17, 2005, at the age of 72, he passed away, his final breaths marking the end of one of Gotham's most enigmatic figures. The Riddler's questions were left unanswered, but Gorshin's legacy as one of television's greatest villains remains. Stafford Repp was born on April 26, 1918, in San Francisco, California. A character actor with a face made for authority roles, he found his place in Hollywood playing cops, military men, and tough guys. But it was as the bumbling yet lovable Chief O'Hara in Batman, 1966 to 1968, that he found his most recognizable role. With his exaggerated Irish accent and unwavering loyalty to Commissioner Gordon, Repp's portrayal of O'Hara became a fan favorite. However, few knew of the personal tragedies that shaped him. During World War II, he served in the U.S. Army Air Forces, an experience that left him with emotional scars he rarely discussed. His career was steady but never spectacular. Guest spots on shows like Perry Mason and The Twilight Zone kept him working, but he never became a household name. Romance eluded him for most of his life. He never married, and though he was linked to several women over the years, none of his relationships lasted. Some say he feared commitment. Others whispered that loneliness was simply his way of life. When Batman ended, Repp continued acting in small roles, but his health declined. In 1974, at just 56 years old, he suffered a fatal heart attack while at the Hollywood Park racetrack. The irony was cruel. After years of playing a lawman, his estate was later embroiled in a legal battle over his will. His sister, who inherited his fortune, used a portion of it to fund a scholarship for aspiring actors in his name, ensuring that while Chief O'Hara may have left Gotham, Stafford Repp's memory lived on. Madge Blake was born on May 31, 1899, in Kinsley, Kansas. A sweet, grandmotherly presence on screen, she became a beloved figure in Batman, 1966 to 1967, as Aunt Harriet Cooper, Bruce Wayne's kindly guardian. But beneath her warm smile lay a lifetime of struggles. Born into a strict household, she and her family faced financial hardships, which led her to marry early. She and her husband, James Lincoln Blake, remained together, but the marriage was far from a fairy tale. They had no children, and her career became the center of her life, a rarity for women of her generation. Acting was a late pursuit. She didn't enter Hollywood until her 40s, first in small roles before landing parts in Leave It to Beaver and The Real McCoys. Despite her gentle demeanor, she faced brutal treatment on the Batman set. Producer William Dozier reportedly disliked her and cut her screen time whenever possible, belittling her talents. By the show's second season, her declining health led to her being quietly pushed out of the series. That rejection was devastating. With her career slipping away and her health failing, she retreated into isolation. Suffering from arterial disease, she struggled to walk, and in 1969, she suffered a fatal heart attack. She was 69 years old, and though she had spent her final years in obscurity, to those who remembered her, she remained the heart of Wayne Manor, a woman who had brought warmth to Gotham, even as Hollywood had turned its back on her. Yvonne Craig was born on May 16, 1937, in Taylorville, Illinois, and raised in Columbus, Ohio. Before she donned Batgirl's purple and gold suit, she was a ballet dancer with dreams of a career on stage. That discipline and grace would serve her well in Hollywood, where she quickly became known for her beauty, charm, and athleticism. She landed roles alongside Elvis Presley in It Happened at the World's Fair, 1963, and Kissin' Cousins, 1964, but it was Batman, 1967 to 1968, that made her an icon. As Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Commissioner Gordon, she brought intelligence and independence to the role, breaking barriers for female superheroes on television. Yet, Hollywood's appreciation for her was short-lived. After Batman ended, major roles proved elusive, and she found herself stuck in guest spots on shows like Star Trek and The $6 Million Man. Her personal life was no fairy tale, either. She had a brief marriage to singer Jimmy Boyd, but it ended in divorce. Later, she married real estate executive Kenneth Aldrich, a relationship that was reportedly more stable, but still left her yearning for the kind of career she had once envisioned. While she avoided the pitfalls of addiction that plagued many of her peers, the emotional toll of Hollywood's rejection was undeniable. She eventually left acting, turning to real estate, and even working as a philanthropist. But in her later years, she faced a devastating battle with cancer. In 2015, after a prolonged struggle with metastatic breast cancer that had spread to her liver, she passed away at the age of 78. A woman who had fought for female representation in superhero lore was ultimately defeated by a silent, relentless enemy. James O'Hara was born on September 11, 1927, in Ireland. Though his roles in Batman, 1966 to 1967, were minor, often appearing as a background policeman, his story was anything but insignificant. Born into a large Irish family, he followed his older brother, Charles B. Fitzsimons, into Hollywood, where he struggled to carve out a name for himself. Acting was never easy, and his career remained overshadowed by his more successful sister, Maureen O'Hara, the legendary star of The Quiet Man, 1952. The burden of living in her shadow weighed on him, and though she tried to help, he never achieved the stardom he longed for. His career consisted mostly of small television appearances, and while he had moments of hope, brief roles in The Ten Commandments, 1956, and The Long Gray Line, 1955, his dreams of leading man status never materialized. That disappointment crept into his personal life. Romantic relationships never lasted, and his dependence on alcohol grew, a vice that plagued him for years. By the late 1960s, he had largely disappeared from the public eye. His health suffered from years of hard living, and in 1992, he passed away at the age of 65. His death was quiet, his name barely making headlines, a stark contrast to the fame his sister had achieved. Though he never found the Hollywood glory he sought, for a brief time, he was part of Gotham's world, a city where even the smallest roles had their place in legend. Burt Ward was born on July 6, 1945, in Los Angeles, California. The boyish sidekick of Batman, 1966 to 1968, he leaped onto screens as Robin, the boy wonder, his youthful enthusiasm and energetic delivery making him an instant fan favorite. But behind the cheerful mask, Ward's experience on the show was far from glamorous. He performed many of his own stunts, leading to frequent injuries, and was paid far less than his co-star, Adam West. The sudden fame was overwhelming, and after Batman ended, he struggled to escape the shadow of his cape persona. His attempts at a film career fizzled, and typecasting left him with few options beyond low-budget productions and convention appearances. His personal life was just as chaotic. Ward married and divorced multiple times, with relationships often ending in acrimony. His first marriage to Bonnie Lindsay produced a daughter, but his second marriage, to actress Kathy Kirsch, was particularly stormy, lasting only 2 years. In later years, he found stability with his wife, Tracy Posner, but the scars of Hollywood's rejection remained. Unlike many of his Batman co-stars, Ward avoided the tragic endings that befell others, reinventing himself as an animal rights advocate, founding Gentle Giants Rescue to save large breed dogs. Though his career never soared beyond Gotham, his legacy as Robin remains intact. As of today, he continues to be one of the few remaining living symbols of the Batman phenomenon, a survivor in an industry that so often discards its heroes. Julie Newmar was born on August 16, 1933, in Los Angeles, California, a statuesque beauty with a razor-sharp wit. As the original Catwoman in Batman, 1966 to 1967, she slinked across the screen with a purring sensuality, turning a comic book villain into a seductive, unforgettable presence. But Newmar was never content with just being a sex symbol. Highly intelligent and fiercely independent, she studied classical piano, ballet, and even patented her own line of pantyhose for women. Her romantic life, however, was less successful. Despite her confidence and charm, long-term love eluded her. She married J. Holt Smith, a lawyer, in 1977, but the marriage eventually ended and she never remarried. Her greatest personal struggle came with the birth of her only son, John, who was born with Down syndrome and severe hearing impairment. Rather than retreat from the challenge, she devoted herself to his care, becoming an advocate for children with disabilities. Though she remained a working actress well into her later years, her Hollywood career never matched the brief but explosive impact of her time as Catwoman. She largely stepped away from the industry, focusing on real estate investments and philanthropy. Unlike many of her Batman peers, she has aged gracefully, continuing to make public appearances and embrace her status as a cult icon. Now in her 90s, she remains a striking figure, proof that sometimes, even Catwoman can land on her feet. How do you feel about the passing of the actors from Batman? Who do you miss the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest videos.